a group here. And on the other side, Mike. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Ben.
Yaji, bro.
Fiti sana, kutulia tu kwa hii baridi. Just waiting for my cup of coffee.
Inabidi, bro.
Inabidi. And of course, we're joined by Steph Ayeta.
Yes, well, it feels good to be back, you know. It's been a long way home.
I've missed you.
I've missed you guys too. It's been a minute. Yeah. Nimerudi sasa.
Awesome
I'm here
stuff.
for the entertainment. You know, Thursday is all about the good vibes, so I'm here to have it all, to enjoy it.
Exactly. Thursday is indeed the new Friday. We have a lot lined up for you in terms of entertainment and, of course, a lot of riveting interviews with artists and creatives being Entertainment Thursday, so stay tuned for that.
All right, stay tuned. As Mike has said, it's great to be back. Thank you for joining us this morning. We hope to take you through your morning in style and just set the pace for your day, yeah? Good morning to you. My name is Stephanie Ayeta. Troy.
And a lot has been happening, Mike. And yesterday, of course, the president's speech at UNGA will be forming basis of a lot of discussions. Today, had a very eloquent speech at the UN summit yesterday. But this is how the standard looks today. And before we'll take a quick break, allow me just to peruse over. New speakers have taken over the counties. Yes, indeed, some had been chaotic, but so far so good. Now we have constituted National Assembly, the Senate, and now the County Assembly. So it's done and dusted elections. And now it's down to service delivery. Ruto locks in Uhuru ministers. That's the headline, talking about President William Ruto administration slamming the brakes on all the foreign travel trips for existing Uhuru cabinet secretaries, committing them to active duty officially until the new ones are sworn in, while slashing their powers. Joseph Kenya also yesterday issuing a statement in regards to those foreign travels and saying they have been frozen, at least for now. And this coming in the wake of damaging reports that the presidency just before the election had spent colossal amounts of money in terms of foreign trips, and indeed at the time where the economy is quite challenged. Another thing that is right here on the standard and a keen eye in terms of graft, Kenya in the mix as 48 charged with 30 billion, not million, 30 billion fraud in the United States. American authorities say that defendants created farms that forcefully claimed to offer food to children, then sought reimbursement and sell it to buy luxury cars, jewelry and property in Kenya. Does that sound familiar? We're talking about the US, but in Kenya context, does it sound familiar? Well, something else that has, and I think we have touched at this on the news, is Omtata, former speakers pushed hiring of cronies in terms of the nomination list that were indeed first put in Parliament. They were returned, and now Busia Senator Omtata is accusing former parliamentary speakers of pushing for hiring of their cronies. That is something that also is forming news in the Standard. More or less here, it's more or less on governance. Ruto moves to lock in Uhuru CSs to duty, but with less power as he awaits to swear in his cabinet. Build back better from bottom, Ruto says. President speaks about Kenya's commitment to end plastic pollution. This is in line with the ban that we have been having on plastic bags in relations to ensuring that we have a safe and clean environment. But of course, we have seen, Mike, I've seen the plastic bags. You order some nyanya, some nyama, you see the plastic bags are back. And in line with what we are talking about in terms of climate change, this is quite a detriment.
They never went anywhere, actually. I've always seen those plastic bags whenever I go buy my little skuma, tonyanya. They're always around.
Yeah, they're being used chini ya maji. As long as you're not found using them, you're safe to use them. So, yeah, so people are still using the plastic bags, but clearly it's hazardous to our environment, affecting the climate, and this is one thing that the president really has a focus on. So we are hoping that, you know, as a country we'll be able to take the milestones to helping in the climate change, you know, campaign.
Yeah, and last week, actually, we carried a story where some endangered turtles were ingesting the plastic bags. They usually eat jellyfish, and the plastic bags kind of look like the jellyfish, and they suffocate them, and they are not only endangered, they are actually very few in the country. So something that needs to be checked. And another thing that of course is forming basis on discussions in the country in regards to the Mombasa port, after President William Ruto talked about the Inland Container Depot ICD from Naivasha will be taken back to Mombasa, and says comply with Ruto's order, lobbyists tell Kenya Ports Authority. Of course, the people from Naivasha do not want that taken away from them, but on the other hand, Mombasa are talking about this was ours, let it come back home. Yes, indeed, inside more on politics when it comes to the change of guard after tight polls in the general election of last month. A lot in terms of the swearing in of now speakers. A lot has been talked about when it talks about when, yes, and Kaloki loses yet again in the speaker's race. Professor Kaloki, who was Polycarp Igathi's running mate in Nairobi's gubernatorial race, lost yesterday. The first round had Mbilu Douglas 25 votes against Kaloki's 22. We are looking and keenly checking how things are going to be panning out in counties, and most specifically, President William Ruto in his inaugural speech talked about ensuring that he strengthens devolutions, and speakers are key because they are third in command when it comes to counties. Mike?
Yes, and on the Daily Nation, just a quick look at it. The front headline reads, Ruto freezes jobs, tender payments, and just a quick look at that. The decree has frozen appointments by CSs to boards of state corporations or state agencies, and redeployments or any new appointments in any rank within ministries and state departments. Next up is Raila called ODM crisis meeting. The ODM leader Raila Odinga has called a parliamentary group meeting next week to quell disquiet in the party over House leadership before Parliament begins its sittings. Next up, still on the front page of the Daily Nation, St. Paul's University students win 120 million shillings in US competition. That's about $1 million. And still on Matters America, it's a funny story that I would like us to discuss before we move on to Stephanie Ayeta. America is on the trail of stolen billions stashed in Kenya. Apparently, detectives from America are looking for suspects who spent about 30 billion shillings in stolen cash from America. They did a few things like buy properties in South Sea and beach villas, so they had a really good time with that money. So the detectives are on the trail of these suspects. What do you think about that, Doreen, as we move on to the paper?
It's quite interesting, trying to just do the much you can, eh?
Yeah.
Try to do the much you can.
And one thing I've noticed is that we mostly export athletes, coffee, tea, and now, based on... Actually, there was another case last week of 100 million. A Kenyan also has been indicted at the United States. And we are also exporting corruption now.
I hope that's not a new talent that we're acquiring from the country.
It's just the level of wanting to survive. People are doing...
They're going out of their way. And
the unimaginable.
You know, and we are used to Kenyans. The story is that Kenyans are actually the ones taking their money to other countries illegally, but now they're bringing it into Kenya. Well, these are some of the things that we hope will be looked into by the new government to just eradicate corruption in Kenya. And, you know, we don't want to be associated with corruption that are coming in also.
Another issue, we have stepped it up. Now we are not talking about millions, we're talking about billions being stolen.
Well,
exactly. All right, a quick look on what the People Daily is holding for you this Thursday morning, and it's just the issue of a public PSC seeking public views on contentious CAS position. Remember that this was a position created by the former president Uhuru Kenyatta in 2017 when he took office, but just months ago the High Court declared this particular position unconstitutional. We have had President Ruto alluding to return of this this particular position. So we just wait to see how this will pan out. And so before any movie is made, because it looks like to be a push and pull, a tussle between these two offices, the Public Service Commission has then gone ahead to just seek public views in respect to whether or not these positions should be retained or be scrapped off, as the High Court had mentioned there. Also, lawmakers and salaries team clash over parks. This is again an issue that also came up in the run-up to the elections, where the Salaries and Remuneration Commission scrapped off some of those parks that were enjoyed by parliamentarians, key among them being the car grants as well as the sitting allowances. Remember that the Senate sits 3 times and the National Assembly, I think, 4 times. And so each of this seating, they were given an allowance of 5,000, and this is what the SRC scrapped. And again, for those that were lauding the move, were saying that indeed, if what this parliamentarian is being paid for, legislation, oversight, representation, then again, why are they being given allowances on top of exactly what they do to be paid for that same job? So that is also what was coming out. But this really yesterday wasn't canvassed by the chair, that is Mengich. However, when it came to the issue of grants, that was granted to the parliamentarians. So, except being given loans to purchase, the vehicles, that at least was given, and that now they can be able to get the grants. But when it comes to those parks, she said that this is an issue that they still have to consult, and equally asked them to give her 7 days to just consult on that matter before this can be agreed upon. And then lastly, why HIV infections are high among girls and young women. This is equally an article that you really, just like to read through to understand why these numbers keep going up amidst some of those efforts that have been made, of course, by the state. But much as that looks to be the issue, still these numbers are going up. 63% of young women and girls account for new infections alone in sub-Saharan Africa when it comes to matters of HIV. We want to take a very quick breather, but when we come back, we still have plenty more on the other side. This is Good Morning Kenya. Stay put.